We are live now. We can go ahead.
Namaste. Very warm welcome and good afternoon to all the dignitaries present here for today's webinar on 2020. I'm glad to inform that this specific webinar has been organized by Vidya Bharati Uच्च Shiksha Sansthan with a new initiative on My NEP. My NEP is an initiative of Vidya Bharati Uच्च Shiksha Sansthan to kind of give a glimpse and kind of give a thought process on how the NEP has been and is going to be implemented all across India. So this series of webinars has in two segments been identify the central agencies like UGC and CBC or Central School Education. All the sessions, topics of the webinar are focused on the initial glitches and the implementation of the specific theme. So today's specific webinar is focused on understanding vocational education after the implementation of, after the launch of NEP, and what kind of challenges the nation may face on the implementation of vocational education in bringing into domain. So we have a wonderful line of Dr. Ashish Bhaviji is a decade of association with various social organizations like Akhil Vidyarthi Parishad. Ashish ji is presently the secretary of Yuva Vikas Society, which is a skill and vocational education training society. He is also the member of Tattva, which is a think tank Center for Northeast Studies. Happy to have you, Ashish ji, and as the moderator of this session. Welcome you, Ashish ji. We have speaker of today's webinar, Dr. Manish Kumar sir. Dr. Manish Kumar sir has obtained his BTech from IIT and MS from Harvard University, United States of America. He has obtained a PhD from Washington University. He has joined Indian Institute of Services, Tripura, Manish is also very critical authority on vocational welcome you. We have Sri Herambakul, Director, Strategy and Education, Bahrain, Bangladesh, and many Indian states like Chhattisgarh and Maharashtra. We're happy to have you, sir, as a speaker of today's function.
Thank you.
May I now request Sri Ashish Bhaviji to kindly initiate today's Center for Northeast Studies. We're happy to have you. Over to you, Ashish ji. Ashish ji. Dr. ji, am I audible?
Sanjeev ji, you are audible.
I think Ashish ji has having some audio issues. Without wasting much time, may I request Sri Heramba sir to kindly give us some thought and ideas on how vocational education can be implemented in formal education sector of Indian education system. Over to Heramba sir.
Thank you very much. Namaste to all. And on this outset, actually, I would like to first thank to my NEP team, mainly to Dr. Sanjeev ji, at the same time, Dr. Ashish ji Bhave, and Dr. Manish Kumar, MD and CEO of National Skill Development Corporation. Thank you all for inviting me here for sharing my thoughts. My basics theme of the today's part is not on what are the improvements needed in the policy. My topic is not about how we can be able to work on this different policy, but I want to have some focus areas that we can be able to develop within this NEP so that implementation becomes smooth. And as a part of our work with government of Chhattisgarh and as well as with various state governments within India, we are actively involved in the primary education and upper primary education till high school on developing the skill sets, and also with some of the higher education institutes within India. So I'm going to start with my basic premise of today's presentation here. If you can be able to see my screen. Yes, then here it goes. I'm sure that you can see my screen and you can see a graph which is quite spread across. The OECD skill strategy has put on this amazing research based on what are the evolutions in the skill demands. So how the demand of the skills is changing in last 15 years from 2004 till 2017. And if you see how this skill demand is changing year by year, and where are the skills are being located, which skills are in demand by the industry. Now, if you read the skills on the left side, you will see some skills like written expressions, deductive reasoning, fluency of ideas, originality. These are the skills are on the left side and they are on the positive axis. That means there is a gap. That means there is a demand of skills and current skills are not sufficient for the industry. So there is a demand for the future. And on the right side, if you go on the right side here, the skills like static strength or the manual dexterity, stamina, these skills are on the negative side. That means they are in surplus and industry do not need that things in more. If you can be able to distinguish between these two kind of end of the skills, you can definitely say that because of the automation, the skills on the right side are getting obsolete day by day, or the demand is getting diminished. And in the future, it will be either way still more diminishing, or it will have the almost zero effect for the future demand. But let's say on the left side, if you read the skills, which are the deductive reasoning or the originality or the perceptual speed or sensitivity. So these are the skills actually, if we or understanding about the empathy, these are on the higher order thinking skills of the creativity and critical thinking. So there is a clear demand on the what kind of skills are required, because at many times when we consider the skills, we consider the skills which are the hard technical core skills only. But what is in the future, it's changing, and this is a very clear indication, and numbers do not let's say the numbers say the truth. Now let's go to the one more part. What is the demand? What is happening is that the total employment, what kind of jobs are available and what kind of jobs are happening. Now this study has been made within the OECD countries. That's why you will see the countries name like most of the European countries or UK or even the some like a China or something countries are here. But this gives a fair amount of idea what is happening in the larger part, and similarly we can replicate in other parts of the world actually. You can see here the blue color, which is small here, represent the low skill jobs. the gray color here, which is on the downside most of the times, is a middle skill job, and this orange, this kind of magenta color is on the high skill jobs here. Now here you can see a clear thing that because of the technology, because of the automation, the middle skill jobs are almost getting vanished, or in fact they are not in demand. They are on the negative side, they're decreasing. Whereas the even the low skill jobs, which are also diminishing, but the high skill jobs, they are in demand. Now these are the standard classification of the high skill, low skill, that we all know that what kind of jobs are part in that part, which goes in which skill level. But more or less the high skill jobs are the jobs where you need to apply your thoughts and create new things, and confront with the situations where the demands are changing day by day. So these kind of requirements, what is happening in the future. So what does this mean is that in the future, what kind of citizens we as an India need, that has to be identified very well, and we need to define this education policy based on that. Finland, because I come from Finland, here in city called Tampere, as a part of Council for Creative Education Finland, we are a part of Education Finland program, and we are official member of that. And our main focus is to do the research on the creative pedagogy and understand and help the various countries or various schools to develop the creative ways of learning. Now, as a part of history, Finland found this as a very interesting case, that way back in 1970s, Finland thought that how we can be able to change our education model in such a way that it will be future ready proof, future ready. And for that, Finland does this kind of survey, that what kind of skills are required for my future employees or for future citizens. These skills, if you see, that they are not connected to any technology. They are not connected to any technical hardcore skills, but they are connected to that. In Finland, we have the Department of Future. And under that, you can see that what skills are required are the appreciation, critical thinking, analytical skill, interactivity, cooperation. So these are the different skills which are being required in the long term within this part. So this has been developed. Now, analyzing this part is there, but I'm giving an example how Finland translated these requirements into the education policy. I think this is really important for us, so that we can understand how to implement whatever with our current policy, which is a broad vision document, how to do the things on the ground practically. So I'm coming to that example. For that, we need to understand in the education policy, the most important two actors are the teachers and students and learning environment. These two are the most important actors. What is going to change, or what is happening between the old ways of teaching and new ways of teaching, or old pedagogy versus new pedagogy? And this is a fundamental change. The first part is that the content, which was precious few years back or in the past, the content was really precious. Now it is a commodity. It is available everywhere. And the job of a teacher was earlier was a content delivery person, and the job of a student was reproducing the existing information and information consumer. This particular model has been proposed, or in fact it has been written in a paper called Rich Sim by Michael Fullan and Maria, and actually they really depict it very well here actually. But what is happening in the current world is that we know that if the technology is evident, internet is by default coming. It is by default now not only internet, but internet of things are already there actually. So we can be able to identify each object separately with the help of specific identification for that. So that kind of liveliness is coming because of the information revolution. So the job of the teacher is not to share the information which is already available on the world, and people know how to find it, but the people don't know how to apply that information to create a knowledge. Or what the students are looking for is to critically evaluating that information and trying to find which information is required for me for as learning versus as not required. So we require these skills. The skills are increasing as compared to the past, and this is the basic part which is coming from the even early childhood education. So the focus on the skill should be starting from the early childhood education. This is the first lesson coming from Finland to the world. Now, to understand that part, Finland converted these 21st century skills as a part of competences in a part of curriculum. Now, if you see this one single diagram, will tell the Finnish curriculum of education. This curriculum is applied from early childhood education till the grade 12, and still it continues. And if you read these requirements or transversal competences, they are like thinking, learning to learn, or cultural competences, looking after oneself, or competence of the world, entrepreneurship. You may find these skills are very abstract, or okay, we can do that, it's not difficult kind of thing approach we think. But let me tell you, actually I think we all are on the same part. uh, it is very easy to teach mathematics because it has a very constant skill sets which are required for that. But this kind of integrated skill sets require a bigger ecosystem to develop, so that we can develop that part for developing. And also this should start early in the life. This is the one important aspect of the overall process within Finnish education. Now, coming to this part, these are the various examples. So during the place, actually, I will show some couple of photos and some videos as well of how the vocational education has been part. But one important part is that it has been misunderstood that in Finland, there is a too much investment on the machineries which are coming there actually. But in fact, it's on the reverse side. I'm going to give towards the end of that how to use the cost effective ways of allocating the resources and funds, so that you can create an industry and academia connection. This is the important aspect. But here comes is that coming to the skills point is that in Finland, by the grade 7th and grade 8, you need to have one subject called home economics. Now, this home economics is a very common sense subject from Indian point of view. It is how to cook in the kitchen. Basic concepts like how to wash the clothes, or how to clean the areas, or home. These are the basic life skills are required. It looks very simple, but has a very long lasting impact on the learning. Now, because when you do the home economics, you don't only learn the how to cook, but you learn geometry, you learn measurements, you learn about chemistry, you learn about biology, you learn about healthy eating habits. So these are the various aspects which come into the picture, and that's why it is really important that home economics connected to this part. What it comes to the basic part is that by having skills into the early phase of the learning, we go up the ladder in the Bloom's taxonomy. Now we can have that the Bloom's taxonomy is a spiral, or we can debate on that. But I think what is more important here is that are we going to the more of evaluation and creation level, rather than just putting ourselves at the understanding or the remembering of the facts. And I think I'm sure that we all know that that is the impact, that is a main part of the NEP 2020. If you ask me what is the one thing is a takeaway from entire NEP 2020 document, is a migration from content to the skills. And for moving to the skills, we have to go up the ladders in the Bloom's taxonomy here. Now, to understand that part, also coming back how Finland has implemented it, so that you can be able to understand what are the critical things required on that. This is a Finnish education model. So you can see on the left side, this is the model which starts from the age of 0 or age of 1 till your graduation, doctoral degree, and so on. So by the age of 6, you go to the preschool. By the age of 7, you go to the primary school. Before that, you don't need to read and write. That's not a mandatory thing. It is not expected from the kids to read and write before the age of 6. But there are many other socio-economic skills or socio-psychological skills which are required to develop before the age of 7. But next thing comes very interesting. You have mandatory comprehensive school, which is from 7 to 16. And this is a critical part, is that after your completion, your 9th grade, or you may consider it is a 10th grade within India, just for comparison, there is an option to choose between these two different streams. Now, left side, which is a senior secondary school, which concentrates mainly onto the academic area or teaching areas, or then you can continue ahead to go to the social sciences, engineering fields, research oriented fields. You can go on the left side. But on the right side, which is a vocational schools, which are more or less hands-on learning, or you have to do with the skills, more and more related to the skills. Both the streams required skills, but they are of the different margins. There, the students, 42% of the students choose this by their first choice, because there is no examination coming on this side. After grade 9 there is no examination, so you can't choose the subjects, or you can't choose the your whether you want to go to vocational skills or matriculation only based on your marks or grades. You have to first choose it based on many things, and I'm coming to that, how the career options are getting placed. And I think this is the major goal of NEP 2020. That's why between the grade of 9 to 12 there is a different choices which are being provided, but we need to know how to make that choices. Now getting a freedom is one thing, but how to exercise the freedom is a different level altogether. So for that, once we get the choices, how to make that choices, that is a critical part, and I'm coming to that part very shortly. Now second part is that there is a second goal of the NEP 2020 is that by the 2025, 50% of our Indian students should be able to choose vocational education, or they should be able to have the experience of vocational education as a first choice. Now this for me actually, I really respect, I really appreciate the policy. I welcome it, and it's a great thing, and we are with that part. But the timeline wise, this is a very aggressive timeline, because for the large continent of like large country like India with a various different demographics, we had to understand that the uh, students will not choose as a first choice as a vocational skills unless and until there is an appreciation of the job. So job appreciation, or what we call as a occupational prestige, it will not come just because of we are putting it in the policy. We have to come, we have to provide the part. So what are the solutions which has been provided? Let's take again example this, that prior to 1980s in Finland, the only one theme was there where you can go on the left side and continue to your master degree. But Finland understood that the skills are important. So after completing your basic vocational qualification by the age of 18, you can continue to going to bachelor's degree, continue to going to the master degree. What does this mean? That a plumber in Finland can do a bachelor degree, master degree, and even doctoral studies. I have seen the examples that the plumbers who are the PhDs or doctors in that area. Or in fact, I have seen the chefs in the restaurants, those who have completed masters in cuisine and culinaries. So this is the kind of prestige if we can be able to give, then only the choices for the next generation will come that, yes, I would like to take the vocational skills in the future part. And for that, I'm coming back again to the primary education point of that. Okay, these skills, if you see the distribution of the subjects, if you see on the top 10 lines, the subjects like mathematics, physics, chemistry, and languages are coming, but they constitute only 40% of the total studies. Remaining 60% are the studies which are the artistics and practical studies, which include music, visual arts, crafts, home economics. That's the glue between different subjects. So where we have to put the priorities, it is very clear actually. So that's what is a critical part of the overall story here. Now for designing, I'm coming to the same point. In Finland, we take the approach, we don't choose the career based on the grades, but we choose based on something else. In general, everywhere, the capability or the skills are considered as a first requirement, but that is only one dimension of the part. So, and it is required, grades are required, skills are required. But second part is that when you connect that part, you also need opportunities. So within the curriculum, Finnish curriculum, we also have the what kind of opportunities from the grade 7. There is a mandatory 1 hour per week. We concentrate on how to find the opportunities as well as how to find your own inclination towards those opportunities. Now, third aspect is mentoring. Now, this is obvious that, okay, many of the times we select our choices of the career based on maybe our parents or our uncle, aunts telling us about the part, or when we see some friends. So mentoring and the social construct, that you can have some job, but you can't go out of, let's say, for example, your own hometown, because you have to take care of your farmland, or maybe you have to take care of your parents. So those are the things. So this is the third important part. But the fourth important part, which is based on the interest, or what is your passion, and this is the most neglected part, and that's where the interest, or where the long-term engagement of the skills are connected to this part. While working with government of Chhattisgarh, we found that, because we are working there from 2016, and we found that 35% of the student population is a tribal population. We all know the Chhattisgarh, how it is been shaped. And all this tribal population are very active learners. That means they are physically active. They can't just sit down in the classrooms. And second fact we found is that they are, the maximum dropout rate starts at the grade 7, and then the dropout rate increases. So we found, what is the correlation between these two is that the students, it's not because of the economic problems, but because of the lack of interest in the classroom, the students are more leaving the classrooms, and connected with that economic problems then get added on that. So the most important part, this interest is there, and how we can identify by that. And we have connected something very interesting, and I'm coming to that example very soon. So this is our jigsaw puzzle that is more important, where we have to put more and more emphasis on the interest and less onto the opportunities, because opportunities are going to change, how the market change, or even mentoring part. So we have to make our students capable of identifying their interest and decision making. This is a part, and this is required. Unless and until we do this, even if we give the choices to them, they can't take the choices. We have given example in many universities within India, we have this optional elective subjects, but we know how those elective subjects are being taken actually. Either way, they are demand or supply, or they are based on the opportunities in the future, or my friend is taking it, that's why I'm taking it. But we are individuals here. So this is, I think, the concentration should be going on this part. Examples which are given here, in Finland, even a simple chef, or simple a waiter or waitress, they need to go through a detailed skill development course of 3 years at the start, at the age of 16, and also they can continue for the bachelor's and master degree in the culinary part and hospitality part, and then that can go to the doctoral studies as well. So these are the example. Then you can be able to part and how the skills are being developed based on the simple concepts under that. Now I'm coming to the most important part, is that I touched upon various aspects of the policy. So these are the 7 important requirements within the National Education Policy 2020. And I'm going to touch on 3 parts out of this. So first part is on, there is a requirement that all students of grade 6 to 8 will do internship. This on the right side bottom part, internship with the local vocational experts. This is a very welcome move. The only thing that, okay, for implementing that, that's very crucial part. We need to make sure that these experts, including carpenters, gardeners, potters, they are very well in their own domain of expertise. So they know what to do. The only thing is that how to teach, or the pedagogical part, is the most crucial aspect of this. So we have to come up with the solution of creating a pedagogical patterns for that. And where I comes to that part, in Chhattisgarh, while doing that, we found that in a Bastar area, in a Bastar part, there is an amazing concept called Bastar art. I was aware by reading it, but when I went there, I found it is a really amazing. It's a really our heritage, and to know that, to how to transfer that art from one generation to other is one part. But when we transfer those skills to the larger population, we need to know the scalability of that and the teaching practices under that part. So these are the practices which we did, and it was a very successful efforts under that part. The second part, which I just mentioned, is about that how we can be able to move to this 50% of learners shall have exposure to vocational education. That means, I think what is the intention is that not only exposure, that they will go to select the vocational skills in the long run. And it comes to the occupational prestige, skills and qualifications. So applied science universities are the really goal for that in long run. And third part is on to the skill gap analysis, which is on the focus on understanding what are the prior learning skills, but also how to apply those skills onto the overall framework of the curriculum. So these are the three important aspects which I would like to take, and I will concentrate out of which two things I already, let's say, elaborated. And last point of today's presentation, I would concentrate on how to identify this framework for curriculum for this based on the skills. And for that, actually, I would like to come to this part. While working with Chhattisgarh, as I just mentioned that we were working for the grade 7 to 9, we found that there is a maximum dropout rate, but they are active learners. So we connected those learners from the point that how they can be able to use their skills, including Bastar arts, in their regular curriculum from grade 7 in history, in geography, in sciences. So we connected that part and we created a framework, which is the starting point of connecting the physical aspects of the curriculum content apart. Let's say how to understand the concept of fractions that can be connected to the skills of team working, to understand the concept of French Revolution in history that is connected with your higher order thinking skills. So that's how we connected the entire, this so-called as a soft skills connected to the high part, and then that become a assessment framework in long run. This is a very long process. It takes many years to do that, but that is the longer golden path. Same thing which we did in one of the let's say remote area of Maharashtra, where the educational quality index was in the bottom 5 within Maharashtra, and we connected that to the skill forum. There is a very good program called Saksham happening in Bhandara Jilla. So please go and visit that part. And they have connected the entire skills for the grade 4 to 8 to the soft skills of the 21st century skills. Now, these examples look good, but how to do that? That's the next point, and that is my last point of my presentation. So I just show you that these 7 transversal competence within Finland part, so they can be also translated into the various different contexts, which we did for Chhattisgarh or Bhandara Jilla. And then each of the transversal competence can be subdivided into the inquiry-based learning or me as a learner. So you can define those skills as a 27 subsections of the part. Now this has been done under the University of Helsinki. This part has been done, but adoption of that, we did it with the Chhattisgarh government in the SCRT and with the College of Education locally over there. While defining that, we understood that we have to define the overall skills into the 4 level 0 to level 3, from beginner to expert level. And this goes from primary education till the vocational education or even the diploma. So you can develop this skills level. But the most critical part is that all the 7 transversal competencies can be divided in this part, and they are connected to the subjects for teaching history, for teaching geometry, physics, or thermodynamics in the future in the higher education. So those can be connected to that part. What is the benefit of this part? That the student will have a portfolio of the skills and their ratings as they progress on up the grade. And this was a very successful pattern where we can be able to motivate the students that, okay, last year you were at this skill level and this year you are at this skill level, so that you have a scope. So it doesn't go only on the grades or marks, but it goes on to your interest, passion, and capability. So now we are coming to that point, how we can be able to develop this part. Now let's take an example of thinking and learning to learn. On the first, you found that this is a very broad skill, very abstract skill. But when we connect that skill to the level 1, how the teacher implements it, what is the goal of a student, how we can be able to define it. Now these levels we can define as per the requirement. For example, here at level 2, students are directed to set their own questions and answers. by them using the inquiry-based learning methods. So this is the requirement of that part. Can we have our requirements where we can be able to create our own questions based on the case studies? So if this level has to be achieved, this is a very difficult level to achieve. We have to go from level 0, 1, 2, step-by-step model has to be there. And then we can see that there is a higher order thinking skills are there, and they are connected to the prestige of the jobs, and then only we can achieve our future goals on this part. And for if you connect with this part, that's why we can see different models under which we can be able to go, and then we can be able to understand what kind of skill sets or what kind of technological infrastructure which is there. So infrastructure is only 5% of the overall efforts. 95% comes from this, where we are directing our skills on the longer part. For that, actually, I want to give one very good example also, not only from Finland, but this example is from Ireland. Ireland has a program called SkillNet. Everyone should go and visit it. Actually, it's a very interesting program. This SkillNet program concentrate on, because we always see that the industry and academia are disconnected, but this program helps in doing that part. How they do it is that by connecting, they have created a cluster of different skills. Let's say example of the wind energy is one cluster, or second is let's say carpentry is second cluster. Now this skillnet is a combination of all the companies within that cluster will come together and they form their own training center. Now this has two benefits. First of all, industry needs their employees to be trained. So instead of going outside and getting the third party training, the expertise are built within the ecosystem of that particular sector, and which is the highest quality. For that, the government has given 0.7% subsidy on to the pension insurance, which are in part. So the employers are happy, workers are happy, the industry is happy, and they have connected this to academia. So now what is the benefit of connecting to academia? So that what is the risky jobs, which are risky means where you don't know what is the outcome, whether it is going to succeed or part, they have been given to the academia, and they are working in the same skillnet center, which can be developed. So this is a very good example of this can be developed. I'm sure that within India, we have also this kind of part. For example, in Maharashtra Chamber of Commerce have this kind of a cluster centers, but they should be connected to more and more towards academia, and this kind of benefit should be extended toward that part. So this was my overall point, how we can be able to go toward that part. And these are the various ideas, Ajay sir. I hope that this would be able to get part, and I'm more open to the questions. I'm sure that everybody is looking forward to hear Dr. Manish ji, and I'm also looking forward to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Hiram sir. It was a great learning experience from you. May I now request Sri Manish sir, Dr. Manish sir, to kindly share your ideas. Over to Manish sir.
Thank you very much. It was great listening to Ramji on some very deep insights on how things work in Finland. And in my view, Finland is one of the best country when it comes to integrating skills and education. So the experience there is going to be very useful. So thanks so much for sharing. I'm going to speak a bit about why skilling, firstly, is becoming very important globally. And there is a reason for that. There is a larger thing which is happening at the back end, which makes it so important. Secondly, I'll also talk a bit about what NSDC does for skilling at the moment, and then how that could be integrated with education. And of course, we will have to take guidance of people like Hiramji because of his deep experience, even as we try to put skills and education together. A bit about digital platforms that we have, because we are in COVID times, and therefore I think the digital becomes quite important and what we are doing in that context. So firstly, talking of why skilling is becoming important globally, it's not a very random phenomenon. It's actually happening for a reason, and it's happening across the world. What has really happened from 1990s onwards for human civilization as a whole is the introduction of something called life transforming technology. This happens not very frequently in the human civilization. Among the first thing which was life transforming for human civilization to grow economically very rapidly was the invention of wheel. So when you had wheel, you could create chariots, you could actually move things faster. So that's like our ancestors, maybe 5, 10, 15,000 years back. And over time, from then onwards till today, in fact, the number of life transforming technology has been handful. Not every invention is actually life transforming. So one of the life transforming technology which came into the human civilization in 1990s is this world of internet and the digital world that was let loose. Some of us who have lived on both sides of this, and I'm sure Dharamji also has lived on both sides of it, pre-1990s world and post-1990s, the change is dramatic. And the way human interaction occurs and the fact that we are in pandemic year and still talking to each other, and Dharamji is all the way off in Finland, I don't think so he could have spoken in a trunk call, pre-1990. So it shows how human civilization is changing and why it needs to adapt. Now, what has happened because of this is an interesting phenomenon in the education sector. The education sector that we have in India and globally is actually organized as per Industry 2.0, which was more like a factory line. So in a typical factory line, you have a car, chassis is going in one end, and then step by step, people add windows, somebody adds a door, somebody adds the roof. So therefore, at the end of it, it comes out as a car. And our education system, if you look at it, is almost a replica of that. That you go to class 1, 2, 3, 4, and you come out to fully ready in some ways at class 12, and then go to a job. That's the industry 2.0. But industry 4.0 is different. It's responding to this world of internet, to this world of digital transformation that's occurring globally, the mobile technology and everything. What is happening because of that is essentially the nature of job is changing very, very rapidly. So when you talk to a typical person in software or to industry people, that what kind of person would you require tomorrow, 1 year from now or 2 years from now, their ability to predict is becoming less and less possible because of the rapid change in technology. So what essentially they want is not somebody who is cooked from class 1 to 12. That is okay. They're fine with that foundational knowledge. But what they want is that current knowledge so that the person can join and on the first day can be running with that, because the employer knows that within a year the game changes. So therefore, if this person is all the time learning or learning right from entry, then it's going to actually cost him money. So therefore, they look for skilled people from that perspective. So therefore, skilling is something which you'll notice globally is suddenly becoming very important and is likely to continue being important. It's also actually transforming lives in a very interesting way. And when I come to the digital part, I will give you 1, 2 examples of how really it's impacting India too, and the global changes that's occurring. So this is about that big picture which I wanted to share on why skilling is important and why it has come to stay. And therefore, the demand and supply both has to be same. There is a demand for skilled people, so you must have a supply side of people whom you skill and send to the market. So NSDC, therefore, with the support of government, and government actually created NSDC in 2009. The idea was that it was a time when India had entered or was in the very early phase of its demographic window of opportunity. And there was a feeling that with this digital transformation, in which India has done well, by the way, if you look at the topmost leaders in IT world, is mostly Indians. So we have a digital transformation, which is a civilizational paradigm shift, and alongside comes India's demographic window of opportunity. So both of them coming together. So therefore, there was a thought that we need to put more money into skills, because during this demographic window, the number of people who are earning far exceeds the number of people who are dependent on earning. Essentially, more young people who are in the workforce. What it implies is that there will be more creation of wealth. And if you skill them up, then the wealth creation actually enhances. And I will tell you by what level we are enhanced at the moment. But this is the basic idea that, okay, you create skilled people and the wealth increases. This has been seen in many countries. So for example, South Korea, during its demographic transition from 1950 to 2000, that was the 50-year period in which they had their demographic window of opportunity. they multiplied their per capita income by 36 times. China entered its demographic window of opportunity in 1980. It exited in 2020. This is the year they're exiting, incidentally. And you would notice that China's economy has been transformed during these 40 years. We entered in 2005. We'll be there up to 2050. We have 45 years time. We are multiplied by about 6 times if you look at our per capita income from the turn of the century. So therefore, we are okay so far, but we need, of course, to do far much more. But this gives you a sense why skilling suddenly became important, and a lot of value has been attached to it from 2009 onwards, and with the current government in 2015 actually putting far much more money and creating a special ministry specifically for this particular purpose. So now, when it comes to NSDC, what we have done over time, 3 things which are notable. One is that we have lent money to private sector partners to create infrastructure for skilling, because you had to operate at a massive scale across this country, a huge number of people who need to be skilled. And so we have about 10,000 centers now across the country with almost 600 training partners participating with us. We skill about 50 lakh people, 5 million per year. I think it's almost more than the population of Singapore every year. So that's the number of people we skill. We also look at the impact, because I was mentioning about impact, that what is the impact that occurs. We have found that in PMKVY, Prime Minister's Kausal Vikas Yojana, for every 1 rupee that the government invests in the candidates skilling, there is a 4 rupees return. 2 rupees goes to the candidate over his lifetime, because they get 15% more wages compared to someone who is unskilled and gets a job. So therefore, the industry actually gives a premium to those who are skilled, 15% premium. And then there's 2 rupee which goes actually to industry because of the enhanced productivity. So that's the back of the envelope calculation. And that's a significant amount of gain that occurs with this investment in skilling. So this is one part of it. The second part which happens is we create industry connect, because eventually whoever we skill has to be absorbed by the industry, the private sector partners. So we have the sector skill councils, 37 of them, some stronger than others, covering various sectors, which includes, ranges from gems and jewelry to logistics to aviation, to beauty and wellness, to persons with disability. We skill quite a large number of them, to tourism and hospitality. So therefore, you'll find that there are capital goods. So there are 37 of them actually. And the idea is that through these sector skill councils, we penetrate into the industry. And what we do by that are 2 things. One is we get deep knowledge about what is the type of person that industry is looking for in various job roles. So over time, we have created standards for almost 2,400 different job roles. So if supposing somebody has to be trained as a motor mechanic of level 3, then what are the things that is necessary for that person to learn for his employer to be satisfied about it? We have a huge documentation of that in a proper way. So we define the competencies that the person must have. If it is level 4 mechanic, then the competencies will differ because it's slightly higher. And these definitions are very deeply collected, and we also give assessment processes that must be followed after that teaching occurs in those competencies, and then certification is provided. So these 10,000 centers that we have actually goes by these job roles that we have created, and therefore there is a kind of framework which already exists. We have borrowed from various countries in doing so. We have learned from various countries, and we have used it to our advantage, obviously adapting to our country context. We also teach in different languages because we are not, we might speak in English, but our country has many languages, and therefore we need to respect each of them. And we therefore teach in almost 9 of them, 9 of the languages. We also work incidentally in schools. It's a pilot project. We work in almost like 11,000 schools approximately. And we teach 72 different trades in this. There are about 50 training partners that we have who are involved in this. The children who learn the trades are in class 9, 10, 11, 12. And we teach 2 trades, 9, 10, one trade, and 11, 12, another, just to make sure that it is diversified I think there was, this is actually done by Ministry of Education, and we provide the support at the back end to the state government so that they're able to run. And our IT system actually supports that entire thing. And I think the few of the observation that has been is that it does help students who do not want to continue education after 12 because of family reasons. They want to work, so therefore they have already acquired skills through which they can actually go ahead and do something else in life. So this is our current experience. Going forward, I think the way we have planned is to have discussions with authorities in schools. Like, for example, we are having discussions at the moment with Chairman CBSE to see how CBSE schools could adopt skills. And here, the first thing which we are doing is to create a good vision about what skill means to the students. So we are proposing a school level skill competition. The idea of this competition is to expose children to skills and for them to realize that if you think of a carpenter, then usually you get a particular picture, a stereotype, it comes to your mind. But if you look at a modern day carpenter, yeah, and the person might be maybe class 10 pass, but he's a modern day carpenter, and you have to visit some of these centers run by Narsi in Mumbai, in the outskirts of Mumbai. You'll see that they actually operate sophisticated computer softwares. They might be just class 10 pass, and I cannot do that job, honestly. So they're so good at it, and they know precisely how to use the machine to pick up a big chunk of wood, how to carry it over to, let's say, the sewing machine, and how all of them are assembled into planks, and how to convert those planks into a computer inputs that they need to provide. And if any of us is trying, we'll make a mess out of it. So it's really a very good skill that they have. And sometimes, people might think that, oh, carpenter, oh, this guy just requires a saw and that's all. It's not. That's the past. I think, the future is different. And therefore, what we are focusing at is levels of change that's occurring in these places. Uh, some other things which we have noticed is the transformation that it brings to lives of people, particularly those who are at the bottom of income pyramid, which is the greatest concern of government generally. We noticed, for example, that girls in Bhubaneswar, whom we had taught about IT skills, very interestingly, these girls actually were found to be behind the driverless cars in California. And what we found is that pictures of some streets of California come to their computers. They're looking at a screen and they're tagging that picture that this is the median of the road. The speed limit on the right side, as they can see, is 35 miles per hour. On the left side, there's a curve, so they will tag the curve. If there is a lamppost, they will tag the lamppost. And then they push that picture into the cloud in about 5-10 minutes after they have tagged it. And there are hundreds of such girls who are sitting and tagging, and these pictures are all going into the cloud. Now, someday a car moves in a particular street in California. They are picking out from cloud the data which these girls have put. So it's basically the intelligence of these girls, mostly from rural Bhubaneswar or rural West Bengal, who were just educated up to class 10 or maybe 12. It is their intelligence that is being converted into machine intelligence and then helping run a driverless car. So some guy in California must have lost a job because there's a driverless car there, but there are hundreds of girls here in India who have got jobs. So therefore, the fear also that people often have about digitalization and is going to lead to loss of jobs is actually not true. There will be new jobs which will emerge. Nature of the jobs, we ourselves are not sure. But we need to constantly explore, we need to be constantly be aware, and we need to be talking to the industry to get a sense of that, and then feeding that back into schools and colleges so that people can adapt and attach it to the curriculum that is already being run in the colleges and schools. So in the colleges and schools, what we have been trying to do, apart from the model that we have for school, which we'll refine as we go along, for the college, the idea is whenever a course is being taught, to have apprenticeship-based courses alongside, wherever it is possible. And it is embedded into the current model itself. And I think about 500 different colleges have started that at the moment. We are expecting more colleges to come. This was like our initial effort. Most of them are actually I think in South India. But we expect more to come in future, and in different ways embed um, job-related skills into the regular academics to make sure that when a person passes out, he or she not only comes out with a certificate of the academics excellence, but also also skill excellence that will enable the person to go to the job market. So that's our effort. A few last thing which I want to share is about the power of digital platforms and how important it is today. And it's evident from what we see around us in the COVID time. We have found that a large number of students have taken to digital platform. Even people like us who we use Zoom and we used, I think, Teams once in a while, but it was like very infrequent. Now, almost all of us have become experts at that. So, in some sense, this whole process of digital change, the COVID year has accelerated that, our learning in a way. We have acquired, all of us have acquired new skills in a way. And I think the knowledge is going to stay with us. In future, I think digital is going to be more important. I'm not saying that it'll be the only way. It'll be kind of blended model where the digital with its outreach capacity is going to get mainstreamed, given that colleges as far as Stanford or for that matter in Harvard could actually begin sending knowledge, which locally, if there was blended learning, locally in Darbhanga, somebody could speak in Bhojpuri and explain, right? So I think that's the model which gradually people will begin to move. Knowledge will get, I think, both will become local in the sense that you have global knowledge, but is localized in terms of how it is delivered. And this um, digital platform therefore has huge potential. We ourselves have almost 600 courses at the moment in 9 different languages in eSkill India platform. And we have almost 300,000 children who have accessed that and are learning from it. We have many partners who have put courses out there, a huge number of them, partners which are from Microsoft and LinkedIn and various others, globally recognized partners. And we expect that this digital platform will grow and become much more powerful in the days to come. And we often hear about EduTech, all of us. I think what is interesting here is we also care for the end result of, I think, the skilling part. So we have created a portal that we call a SIM portal, which links skilled people. It's a directory of skilled people with jobs and job opportunities that is occurring across India in the private sector. So there are almost 1,000+ companies that are on this portal, and they advertise their jobs there. And there is a artificial intelligence interface that enables matching of candidates of skills that the private sector requires, and also matching for this purpose, for the sake of the students, those jobs which are nearer to the person's home, so that they don't have to migrate too far, learning from the experience of COVID. And the entire discussion occurs in the portal itself. And this was inaugurated by Honorable Minister on 10th of July. Between 10th of July to yesterday, we had given 13.20 lakh job offers. That's a huge number, 13.20 lakh in a COVID time. A job offer in which none of us personally intervened. It's pure market functioning because we created the electronic platform. And it's an opportunity for the children, is for them to decide if they want to join, not join. But the fact that opportunity is there creates confidence in society. It creates confidence in the youth that yes, there is something good which is available to me. So we have put that up, and we are hopeful that those kind of initiatives that the government has conceptualized is going to lead to positive changes. One last thing which I would want to emphasize, and I think is very important when we talk of education at school level, is the need that we not only focus on jobs, but also focus on entrepreneurship when it comes to India. And when I talk of entrepreneurship, it's not about the big entrepreneur who is funded by the venture capitalist. I'm talking of nano entrepreneur, small entrepreneur in small villages who require loans of 50,000 to 1 lakh to create a livelihood for himself or herself, and would probably work for 3-4 years and might fail, like every entrepreneur fails several times before they succeed. So I think one of the need as a country that we have, and sometimes during the Macular's time, we lost that trend, is to remain entrepreneurial. As a country, we should remain entrepreneurial. That's how we have always been in history, and that's how we have survived. Unfortunately, I think we become, with the British coming in, I think we got too much into the clerical jobs that the British, wanted Indians to adopt, and eventually, I think the kind of jobs that we take is more towards civil service and others, whereas I think we should become more entrepreneurial over time. And these nano entrepreneurs, I believe, are critical for India's growth. And we need to spend more energy, more time, as well as teach the basics, as we do in all our training programs. It is necessary to teach these basics in colleges and universities so that children come out confident about the fundamentals. And also, as a society, we should not stigmatize failure. We should actually celebrate failure, because there is a need to fail at least twice and thrice. Each of them is experience gained, and that's how you eventually become successful. If we stigmatize failure, then people fear, and therefore they are not willing to accept failure, and that results in all kind of, I think, blunders in due course. So I think these are a few of my thoughts which I wanted to share. Thank you so much for inviting me, and it was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Manisha, for the great sharing a great experience of you and giving us an insightful thought. We have a couple of questions from audience side. Before I pose some questions, I would like our audience to raise some questions. I request audience participants through this webinar to kindly unmute yourself and pose. We will take 2-3 quick questions. The floor is open. Yeah, probably I have received some questions on chat box also. So before, if audience is getting it, I will ask some questions from the organizer side. So there's a lot of talk about integrating vocational education to formal education. Do you see some challenges during implementation part? That is one big question institutes are asking. So how do you respond to it, sir?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to do anything in a country this size of India, there will be challenges. We are 1.3 billion people, which is equal to the population of all of Africa, 40 countries. And we are trying to solve that problem, and therefore we should really be realistic that there'll be problems and we'll have to deal with it. Few of the problems that is occurring is about infrastructure. The question is, should it be private or should it be government? And you'll notice that both the private and the government, both of it is coming up. So that's been the focus of government, aware that its own resource may not be sufficient. Second, I think has been, and this is fundamental, in the linking of the academic part and the skill part is this whole notion of how do you do transfer from somebody who is on the skill side, which Hiramji was talking of, that one could actually move seamlessly from skills to academics in the context of Finland. But does that happen in India? We require this framework, credit framework of when a carpenter clears level 4 exam, what does it mean? What does it mean? And what level of accomplishment the person then decides to do regular academics, then how do you allow the transfer to occur? So I think this is quite an important part. The good thing is we have now, running up and running National Council for Vocational Education Training, which was set up by government. It's a regulatory body whose job is precisely creating this kind of framework to make this connect happen. And in real terms, the framework has been there for a while, but in real terms, make it operational by providing the credit value to this entire ecosystem. So I think that's also coming up. And we expect that over time, as you'll notice, many state governments have picked it up. The district collectors are being given that responsibility. I think we can call skills little more popular, or rather little more embedded into the Indian system when the Gram Pradhan begins to talk about skills. We have not reached there, but we are, I think, moving gradually towards that. And I've noticed ministry taking a lot of initiatives in making sure that gradually it moves deeper and deeper. But the first level experiment was at national level. It's gone up to states. Many states do it now. States like Maharashtra actually exceedingly well. And then it can go down to districts and to Gram Panchayat. So that's the expectation. So I guess it's going to be taking a bit of time, but it's actually moving forward quite well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. I have a couple of questions from the participation list, sir. If you permit, I will raise all the questions, and would you be like to address one by one? Shall I read out all the questions, sir? 4 or 5 questions I have.
Why don't you read out all and then I'll maybe.
Yeah, yes, sir. The first one question is like we have experienced that we have an inferior complex of students who are in vocational education. How do we change the mindset of society towards vocational education? That is one question, sir. Second one is how do we reach vocational education at the most remotest in the rural area? How do we give training to rural folks, rural students, all this thing? And how do we promote the scope of indigenous or traditional knowledge at skilling activity, or do we say Lokavidya? And one question is says that we have languages issues in imparting vocational education. How do we address proper training with respect to language issue? And how do we include specialized training from school level, starting from school level to the higher education level? So these are a couple of questions has been come up, sir.
Okay. Okay, let me try answering some of them. So on the first
Yes,
one was about aspiration. And I think when it comes to aspiration, there is a need for talking more about skills and understanding why the aspiration for skills went down in a country which has such excellent monuments across the historical time. So if you look at Ashok's thumb, it was created 2000 years back, right? I mean, more than 2000 years back, and shows the skills of people at that time. And then you continue looking at history from that time onwards, right up to the time of our independence. You'll find that India actually has always been very, very skilled. The Indian folks were quite skilled generally. I think, as I mentioned, that there is a need for self-reflection. That at what time did we lose the respect for skills? And it seems that we seem to have lost that respect during the British time. And it's important to talk about it, to discuss, rather than brush all this under the carpet and not talk about it at all. The fact that, Macaulay wanted us to become brown sahibs, and we have become, right? I mean, I'm speaking to you in English. We shouldn't be. Ideally, I should be speaking my mother tongue. And, that's how other countries have grown. But we have to be realist that, okay, this has happened. What has happened is happened, but it doesn't mean that I ignore the truth. I have to look at the truth as truth. So the discussion, I think, is very important. Secondly, as I mentioned, that skills comes now on a technology platform. I mentioned about carpenter, but I mentioned of a carpenter who is technologically very sophisticated. So once you give the technological platform, you'll find the children who have actually acquired skills on those platforms are far more confident. They feel that, okay, I didn't do class 12 like you did, but I know far more on some of the softwares than anybody who has done class 12. That level of confidence comes in. When we have this VR and AR, augmented reality, virtual reality, these are tools which could actually be taught to children. And these tools for vocational education, and these tools are so powerful that they leave a mental imagery for that person and a self-belief that I have something which is far deeper than somebody who just did a regular academic. So I think we need to therefore become a little more creative on that side. Besides the fact that we also do all kind of competitions, we bring to attention those people who get skilled and accomplish something in life. We recognize them. So I think there has to be a celebration towards skilling. People need to celebrate skills. People have to appreciate skills, and people have to talk skills. So this is a process. It started, but I think that's the way we'll have to go. Secondly, I think you spoke about how to take to remote areas.
Yes.
That as I mentioned, requires that we begin to activate Gram Panchayats. There are 97 different economic clusters in India, for your information. Each of these economic clusters consist of 5 to 6 districts, you can say. And these districts will have about 8 or 9 trades. Now, this cluster, 8 to 9 trades, which are really important there for their economy. And what we should do is focus on those and bring it right up to the village level. So different types of trainings can occur, which then, what you teach in Nagaland should not be the same as what you teach in Kerala, because these are two different economies. And I think this localization is what we should aim for. And that's happening now with government also focusing towards district. You talked about indigenous traditions. I think this is very important. The indigenous traditions, to keep them alive, treat them as skills. Here, I think the need for market for these indigenous traditions are also important. A special focus would be necessary. Again, it has to be based on those cluster-based approach, because different clusters will have different indigenous traditions that we need to keep alive. Language issue does exist. We as Indians, we speak one language, like we think in another language, and then we again speak in another. So it's like it's a complex thing, which that transpires. So I might be speaking English, somebody listens English, but then when they speak back to me, it's again in English. So they create what we call creating common cognitive belief system, that when you use a word, then you precisely mean a particular thing is very difficult in India. And the coordination therefore becomes a challenge. I think we need to encourage more and more use of local language. We should not be, apart from English, I mean, we should learn English. I have no problem with that. It's very important that local language should be given more importance and should not be treated as secondary. It's very important for thinking purpose, very important for deep reflection. And so far as NSDC is concerned, we, as I said, operate in 9 different languages. And I hope that in future, state governments will also adopt them and not just be teaching skills only in one language, English, but teaching skills in multiple languages. I think that's the route which we should take. And I think these were the questions that you asked. Was there anything else?
That one last question was, how do we include specialized training from school level, sir?
Specialized training. So as I said, you would have to probably decide in each school what are the trades which the children would prefer, and that would depend on the economy of that area. So there is a reflection that will be necessary, as I mentioned about the cluster-based approach. So
it can be a customized model kind of thing.
It has to be a customized model. There are training partners in each of these districts. So either you can invite them, or there are Prime Minister's Kaushal Kendra in each of the districts. So you could actually go to them.
Yes.
The model will depend on, what is that exact location. As I said, what might apply to Nagaland will not apply to Kerala. You'll have to make your choice, right? So I think we will have to find a way of doing it in each of these economic cluster. And the good thing is that the knowledge about skills exists in every district today, because we have every district, we have a Prime Minister's Kaushal Kendra, or we have one of our training partner who may not be PMKK, but they are our training partner, and therefore they have the knowledge of how trainings are to be run. So with their help, it should be possible to build up both infrastructure and the initial knowledge in every school, and we will be able to provide that connect.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's assume that we don't have much other questions from the participants. I personally thank both the speakers and our moderator, Dr. Ashish Ji, for organizing and helping me connect to the two well-distinguished speakers for today's session. Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Manish, sir, thank you very much for coming down and joining us for the webinar. We remain grateful to you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
I also extend my greetings on behalf of Vidyabharati Ucha Shikha Sansthan to Heramba sir for kindly gracing this occasion and sharing your ideas. And we look forward to seek your guidance, take your suggestion, input on implementing NEP in the future. I thank all the participants who have shown keen interest in attending this webinar. Thank you, all of you. With this, I thank you all again, and let's wind this session today. And we hope to see you tomorrow. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.